Is it even doable, Becky, the last time we spoke about PD1 density, is it doable at 175% floor area ratio? I don't mean to this level, of course, I mean your ROI to make a good project on that site. Can you not do it at that density?
I think I would offer that we wouldn't be going through this process.
Okay, that's fair enough, that's fair enough. Because in Orlando, somehow they were able to put a Marriott Courtyard on a lot that's actually smaller than this, and it was twice the number of rooms. So I would love to see you do something. There's no doubt about quality, but it's just something about staying within the character of Winter Park. And I do appreciate that as you get out to 1792, that's different. I do appreciate that, and for, in my mind's eye, we drew that line at Harper, Galloway, Friends, so that we didn't intrude to the east into what we have now, into that balance. And so that's sort of, that's the room I'm coming from. I would sure love to see you do a nice project there, but not enough to give up park land or.
I mean, so we're not talking about the parkland yet, we're just talking about the project at this point. So if we could keep our comments to that.
Okay, so the project for me is any project that we can get in there within our codes, which would give you 3 times the existing density at 175% FAR, would feel quite comfortable to me. And that's a huge I mean, it's not like I'm saying I'm against this development. That property right now is 45% FAR. I would rezone it administratively tomorrow to a PD1 with the restriction that it had to be a hotel. I mean, I just want you to know that's where I'm at. I want to see a Marriott there or some comparable hotel, and I think we need that. And I am very comfortable of zoning to PD1 for that property. And for me to say that's a big deal, and you know that. That's a.
It is, and I appreciate that. I just want to point out that at a 175, we would still be asking for this parking garage, because remember, your code includes parking garage and FAR. So we would really be getting 175.
Right, you'd probably be like 110, 120.
Sarah?
Well, I have a real hard time with the whole project. And I especially have a hard time with the density and change since we started. I just think it's too much and too small of an area.
To give you an idea, just for perspective, I went and looked at the Winter Park Village. Winter Park Village is 500, maybe 520, 530,000 square feet. You probably know exactly. 500, let's say 550,000 square feet on 32 acres of land. This is what, almost 300, 260 on 3 acres of land. The density is not in character with Winter Park.
So Randy, is the FAR, because I have not studied the project per se, I've been looking at what we've been asked to look at, which isn't approve the project or not, it's the other implications of the project. Is this accurate at FAR 2.29?
That number is provided us by the applicant, and that's just on the Mount Vernon site. That doesn't factor in the garage and the FAR. The garage would be on the Civic Center side.
Sure.
So it doesn't calculate the land area of the Rachel
Right.
Nelson, and it didn't calculate the square footage of the garage.
Correct.
Okay, so it's really.
So, well, we've learned that, at least based on the most recent information that's come out, that FARs and garages are not accurate in this terms of the way
Some people from Miami do.
What would the project as it's currently built, and I guess maybe that's on the analysis page, what would be the FAR to the code today, whether or not we would adjust that?
So the code today would be a 45% FAR, but at a PD1, I believe that's 175%.
And do we know what that would be
Well, that basically takes you to
to
the
this?
second project, which, as I understand it, as Paul says.
So 50% less
It
dense.
would be minus the hotel, and instead of 260 units, I believe it's 150-ish. And
Only
one
two
restaurant
one
versus,
restaurant.
one restaurant versus 2 restaurants.
And PD2 is 250. So we were not choosing something that is not already contemplated in the attempts to be made.
You don't
And I think,
say that, but I.
yeah, and I think that they're consistent with, you know, the draft proposal that the city's received from WRT as to where density is appropriate in the city. And when you move that out this way, you generate your tax revenues there, it actually helps the city protect those areas that you don't want to have economic development.
One of the concerns that I have, and it's because I guess I left CNL, which is another neutral, I think very familiar with another neutral community. But what happened was, we maintained the center, just like we're trying to protect Park Avenue, but we started densifying to such a high degree surrounding us, we gridlocked our streets. And all of a sudden, this wonderful environment, people started leaving. And they started leaving because they had to get in their cars sometime and go someplace. And what we're talking about is, we're talking about putting this density right at the mouth of Morse. So you've got, well, you've got 1,000 units. If you look at Ravadash entitlements, your new units, the 3 things that we have already created there, I just don't feel responsible doing that. And the fact that our city does not have a transportation expert that is looking at all of these things for us relative to concurrency, particularly makes me uncomfortable. And so for me, we've got caps on density for a reason, so that everybody can get a bite at the apple, and we can have high quality and people can do nice things, but we can spread it out some, so that we can still get in our cars and drive up and down the street.
Well, I don't want to belabor this. You and I could probably do this all day and sell tickets to it, but unfortunately.
Best entertainment you have.
Yeah, I
Free
know,
Park.
but unfortunately, we in the city of Winter Park don't have the power to limit what goes on in Maitland and what goes on in Seminole County.
I
And
know, I
that's
have
the
that
benefit
list,
that's
which
on
is just
Seminole
right
County.
now.
So that traffic.
And I'm grateful I live and work in a city and mayor of a city that people want to work in. It's a whole lot worse to be on the opposite side, so.
And where
So-
we don't have to take every deal that's brought to us, we can evaluate.
Absolutely, that's what we're evaluating right now. Is there enough on that point? So, because Commissioner Sprinkle asked that we go through the key points, I think the next essence of the point is, does the city see benefit in using city land already designated for parking to enhance desirable development along 1792?
I don't have a problem with it if and this goes back to my original point 2 weeks ago, if the applicant brings something to the table that the city's interested in, whether it's the development itself, but also in addition to that, revenue, whether you lease the land from us, whether you pay us rent on the land, when you build a garage, whether you build a garage. As far as I'm concerned, the city's bringing the land to the table already. If you'd like to use that land to enhance your development, then there needs to be something in it for the city. And then it still comes down to the merits of the development. So that doesn't mean it's a definite yes, but I'd certainly like to see that. This idea of revenue sharing to pay you back for money fronted to help us increase the civic center, that's less than a non-starter. I mean, I don't know why we would share revenue. We started out saying you guys are going to have to bring something to the table. And your idea of bringing something to the table is we're going to bring something to the table, and then over the next 15 years, we're going to share revenue so you guys can pay us back in excess of what we brought to the table. I don't even know. I don't know where that came from, but that's certainly not.
Well, with all due respect, where it came from was staff brought to us some needs. So it wasn't like.
I don't think they probably brought up, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, did they bring the revenue share up to you guys?
No, they brought up, these are the needs, these are the upfront cost needs that we have. And we brought up a solution on how to respond to that.
So let's ask it a different way. And Steve, what I hear you clearly saying, and I would concur with you and agree with that, and that is, if city land is being used for a project, there needs to be some income stream to the city land. So that's no different than if we made it a big soccer field today for our kids. Somebody's going to pay to use soccer field or whatever. So some sort of an arrangement that would allow income to flow, and that income could flow in multiple ways, and the project could be done in multiple ways. I was very intrigued by the idea of maybe a hotel goes there adjacent versus a parking garage. I'd be much more interested in that personally. But if there was some sort of an income stream that, yeah, I mean, I think would be a critical issue of a deal. And I don't know what that income stream needs to look like. I wouldn't even go so close to say what I think that income stream should be, but it obviously would ultimately have to benefit the citizens by at least paying for what we perceive the lease value of that property.
I went back through the email again, and I saw that from your end as being a non-starter. Well, I was on that same page, to be honest. I mean, I was hoping that coming back, there would have been something along that from a revenue standpoint that did involve reimbursing you over time through revenue sharing, and that, there's a lot of things I could handle had that been included in there. I'm still struggling with the architecture of the garage. That's a whole nother story, but I think the deal breaker for me was that, yes, if the city's bringing land to the table, we should have been receiving compensation for that. And we've been dealing with this on Robidage, and we've had the same conversations. We've been dealing with this from a garage standpoint. I know there's been another garage that's been brought forward and taken off the agenda many times because of its size and its architecture. And trying to look across all the things that we've looked at in the last 3 months. I was hoping, I'm not there with this one. I just have to, there's multiple. Well, I think as we talked about, I think both you and.
We agree, or what you're saying,
Yes,
that
I think
there needs to be some sort of an income stream.
There needed to be, I mean,
And others.
what is there, we've had any piece of property in town we could give to somebody that we own right now, we could share revenue with multiple developers all over town and carve up every piece of public land that we have.
People
And that's not,
gave away the entire park, how
Well,
much revenue you could
so
generate.
that,
Well, luckily
we
have
got
it.
that.
Praise God.
What above and beyond that is being brought to the table? I didn't see anything else. I really didn't.
No,
And I looked hard at that one, but again, it's what's being brought to the table for Winter Park that we don't already have. Because we have, no, it's not.
I mean, no, I'm just asking, are we
I don't,
Are
I'm
you
not even
intending to
sure.
bring something to the table? Because certainly we told you that last time and it didn't come this time. So the question is there a next time or can we close the door on this?
I don't know that that's even a worthy question at this point. My comments to me and the comments that are being made are really for staff's benefit as well as anything. And I think part of a deal point for me would be if there's not, he has to decide whether that is or isn't in his possibility. But in terms of a win-win-win-win-win, if there's not some sort of a revenue stream for the land, I think that's a problem.
That's the problem for me.
That's a problem. Whether he's posturing or not, I don't know, you can ask him all day long, but
I
I don't
know
really
how
want
I-
to discuss
you feel like,
that.
let's just put a
That's-
time limit on
that's
it and say,
immaterial
okay,
for me to
check this
discuss
block,
right
let's
now.
go to the next one. I guess here's my problem.
Well, let me.
I mean, I'm
let me-
assuming he's posturing, Carol. I mean, let's just assume that.
Let's just assume that. That's
I
what
assume everyone's armed in the audience, and I assume that everyone's posturing.
I'm
I'm assuming
assuming
you're
you're
posturing, I'm assuming I'm posturing.
Okay, well, I want to be real clear that I am not posturing. It is indefensible to me to face other developers in this community and say to them, yes, CNL is at the trough for the second time, and we are going to share our city land in order to facilitate. Well, all I'm saying is my phone's been ringing off the hook. If we are going to give away city land to subsidize commercial development, it needs to be equitable and fair, and we need to put it on the
No different than
market.
selling the post office back to people in 2006, so
We
let's
need
not
to
have that
upload it, put
conversation.
it on the market, and go
Let's not
through this
have that
fairly. This is, this,
So-
I can't help
so-
it, that's facts
Good,
here.
well, I'm glad you feel that way. So clearly, I think there's a majority of the commission, and I see foreheads nodding, that says we would not consider a deal where there was not some income stream to the property. So that helps answer, and whether it's for a hotel, which was in the email, or whether it's for a parking lot, I think there would need to be some. What I'm gonna use it for, I'm just gonna tell you, which is the next question. I have no earthly idea. I may use it for that or not, but I think the Civic Center as part of this discussion, for me, is becoming an issue. It's becoming something that we're gonna have to add to planning the possibilities in our conversation about what happens. And for me, if this project is going to happen and it happens near it and a hotel is built or something, and that through whatever way, through additional taxes, through whatever way that we might be able to refresh, improve, rebuild, add to, create a small performing arts center or whatever, the civic center, and if a hotel was right next to it, that to me would be cool. I mean, that to me is something I can put my arms around and say that's valuable to the citizens of Winter Park and maybe a valuable use of our land to be able to enhance that. So, you know, does the city desire to subsequently use incremental revenue created from the project? I don't know, it's a broad question, Randy. I don't know what I'm gonna use it for, but that's my feeling. Others?
If I can just point out to that point, your meeting as a city commission, I would tell you that that's TIF revenue, so that would become a CRA issue, so you are restricted to the CRA on those TIF revenues. So that in itself, just to keep that in mind when you begin thinking of where that revenue would go, at least for the first 15 years.
Well, it's not all.
It's not all TIF.
Anything out of the, like,
Right,
out of the utilities, but the majority
it's
of
not
the
all
tax,
TIF, but-
the majority of the tax increment.
And this looks at, I mean, this doesn't look at Dory, whether or not we would add a bed tax or other things to it. So your point is very, very well taken. It's obviously something that would be CRA problem. Others?
No, I don't know what, yeah, you're right. You know, that's kind of a
Sure.
awful broad statement to either agree or disagree with, so I don't know what we can do with it, but that could be one of the things, sure.
We will spend it. I
If you don't
guarantee you that.
have trouble finding a place to put it.
Well, we may not spend it.
You may put it in a reserve.
I don't know if this next question is pertinent or not. I mean, it is what it is. You obviously put values on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we increase the density on every site in the city, we increase the revenue to the city.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, only to the extent that there's a market there.
To
And
develop.
there's a
Sure.
and there's a good quality
So
developer
there are
as well,
some
too.
pieces of property you could
That's
triple
fine.
and it's still
And
second.
it's still not.
In Winter Park?
Thanks.
I'm being facetious.
Twice nothing is still nothing, right?
So, those are the key points, Sarah. Did you have other things you wanted to
No,
talk about?
I
think that
appreciate
kind of
that because that just-
brought the discussion to a head.
Can I, Mr. Mayor, may I ask a quick question?
Um,
Paul, you mentioned that the layout is not to scale. Can you give me an idea of scale in regards to the Civic Center?
Well, I mean,
Height of Civic Center versus height of, I think anybody looking at this is gonna have the question of,
yeah, I think if you look at the picture, I mean, you can see, I mean, the
we're talking treetops with that?
yeah, I mean, it would be about even with the treetops. You know.
And then the rest of the development, is your highest building the
Yeah.
hotel?
Potentially, yeah, it depends on the actual room count of the hotel.
And you're
But
all,
we're
you're
thinking
looking at
in
about the
6
same
to
height
7,
as the
yeah.
parking garage?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's correct.
And the question before you, obviously, the reason you're having this work session is, they have a deadline. And there's also a citywide notice that we need to go out, and they didn't want to put out a citywide notice presuming to use city land if there's not at least 3 commissioners willing to allow them to use city land as part of that project. They don't want to incur the time, or the staff want to incur the time. If there's not 3 commissioners
Well, I'm
that
not.
have.
So I'm one that's a no. That's fair. Sounds like you got 2 no's and.
May I ask a question of the commission? The idea of a hotel on the site or a site around the this was in your email, Randy. I'm trying to read it. Put the hotel on the Civic Center site or maybe next to it or on the, what's the little building that's where we have a cell tower now?
Little community center.
Lake Island Rec Center, which I think we renamed. You know, maybe something there, I don't know. Is that, I mean, I have to ask the commission because I think that's a worthy idea. Is that something that we would suggest to staff that maybe they can negotiate, obviously with the.
Is that today's email? I'm sorry.
I mean, the thought was,
It's Friday.
the thought was that if you put, instead of the parking garage on the parking lot site, if the hotel was in the parking lot site, the garage was across our road where the hotel would have gone. Is that a better option if the commission wants to participate at all? Is that a better option because you could tie a hotel into the civic center a lot better than a garage? But that, as I said in the email, that hasn't been vetted. Paul and I spoke briefly about it Friday, but we didn't draw anything up or anything to that level. It was just kind of a, if you're interested in participating, that might be a better way to make it fit.
Randy, that to me would be a whole separate look-see of things, and as the deal is, as the offer, as the discussion is currently before me, I would be another no. I hope that there would be a rather substantial lease payment, some kind of agreement for the use of our land, because that's extremely valuable and it's bringing value to the folks that are sitting across from us. I'm not there. I've struggled with the architecture. We can argue about that till all days end, but I had hoped to see something, and I'm going to say substantial, the use of that land to allow us to go forward. I'm going to repeat again, I had no problem with the density on the site. You know, something came back that was dense, because I don't share the same, and, you know, I don't, and that's fine, and we, you know, we go forward from here. But as it's currently structured, I'm not there.
So
that
Tom,
would
if
be-
it was hotel plus income stream? I mean, income stream's a given. I mean, if anything's gonna happen
Yeah,
from on.
there would have to be an income.
There has to be
And then
income
we'd
stream,
have to
and
sit
then
down
we'd
and
have
talk
to sit
about
down and talk.
and
Right.
talk about that. That's fine. I don't want to try to
You're talking about on
take
the
pieces and
city
move
side
around on board
now.
right
You're
now
just
and say we
talking
got
income
something,
plus,
so.
income stream plus hotel
No,
on
I
the
mean, I
city
think we're all
side.
clear that we're not gonna
Okay.
give the land away
Right.
for a potential project that may or may not happen across the street from us. I think we're all in agreement,
Okay.
at least four are in agreement. The question that's on the table that was posted in the email is, would we consider that? So I assume it would have to have an income stream too.
We'd be talking about the same thing.
Well, I
Is
don't
there an
know.
income
Hotel
stream?
to
Are
me
we-
is a lot, no, I mean, if there's an income stream.
Yeah, I mean-
Let's say that's a given. To me, a hotel on city-owned land with a long-term lease or something, to me would be far more palatable than a parking garage, personally.
And then we wrestle with, okay, now I've got 170 spaces or 150 spaces at the civic center that I'm now, or the civic center that I now have to go across the street. I mean, there's logistics and
No, I mean,
stuff.
I'm even intrigued if the hotel was pushed down the street a little,
Yeah, so
to the south.
those are options we could continually play with, and they all have financial impacts, and they all have zoning impacts and everything else. That's why I'm just trying to focus right now on what's before us. But I would
Which is
love to
fair.
look at another,
Yeah.
if other opportunities came forth, I would look at those, but as this one currently is structured, no, I'm not.
If this is
I'm
the
not
citywide
there.
note, if this is for the citywide notice, then I think we're good on the tables that are now. I'd certainly like to give you an opportunity to come back, given the thoughts we've just shared with you in regards to income stream and possible relocation of different buildings within that. And if that was for the citywide notice, if you were gonna come forward with something during that period and bring something forward to the public that is markedly different than what we've just seen, then I'm a yes to go forward. But this thing, I think is, well, it's DOA, as we just heard. It doesn't even matter really at this stage if we've got 3 no's. But I'm always interested in hearing what you guys have to offer and what you're thinking of. And as the mayor just said, if it includes putting a hotel somewhere different, perhaps it's something that would be interesting to hear.
Well, I'm not interested in hearing anything in the public until we have gone through it in a workshop personally.
So, Commissioner, you didn't know from the beginning of this thing, so I'm not sure that that's going to change.
It would not change unless there was truly some incredible public benefit to it, and I would submit.
Well, I think I'll several comments to this. I think when we originally brought this, I think one of our major points was, and one of our worries is that, you know, in this process, what often tends to happen is you get locked up on one issue. And what we tried to encourage is to look at this holistically, that there are jobs to create, There is a demand for this in the community. We've seen it over and over again. And that if you looked at it holistically, what we're presenting is something that's actionable. You know, much like the discussion we had around Heritage Park, we have an actionable opportunity now, and the cost of that action, if you will, and saying no, is roughly $6 million to a CRA that, you know, the revenues are down pretty significantly since the economic downturn. So we're replacing revenue, and with all due respect to the commission's request, if you will, it's not how public-private partnerships work. What you're asking for. You're asking, because what you're not factoring into this is that certainly it has to be economically viable. And when you load in the cost of the garage, I mean, the cost of the garage increases the cost of this project. It's not economically viable to then add more cost to that situation. And so if you do not see the incremental tax revenue as a revenue stream, then, and you don't see the value in that, in which is significant value, you don't see the value in an opportunity to dramatically improve that area and that civic center, if you don't see the value in having a hotel and those types of things, then, you know, we've presented an actionable solution to that that generates a lot of value. And we're still open for discussion on how all that works. But if the question is build, you know, $15,000 a space per garage, create the value that happens on that site and pay for that, it just doesn't work financially. So, and that's, I mean, that's not a, I'm not posturing. I would say this as well, because I do take a little bit of offense at times, you know, in this process, you know, characterizing us as being at the trough is, in my mind's out of bounds. What you don't think about is we've generated a lot of economic activity in this city. We've invested significantly in the city. The owners of our company, all of the owners of our company and the current CEO live in this community, and they're invested in this community as well. And the Frazee family has been here for over 50 years. And that's inappropriate to characterize us this way. We came to you in partnership with the Frazee family to try to come up with something that was powerful for the city, that was on an urban corner, that literally sits on the corner of two 4-lane roads, and come up with something creative that would create a dramatic impact. And I don't appreciate being characterized like that, because we do have what's in the best interest of the city as well, because we live here, we drive here. We've brought corporate citizens to this community, and we think about that side, and we think about this project. And so I think we're open to having a discussion around a true public-private partnership, much like the ones that we've been involved in other areas of the state. But the way that it's being structured right now is not a private partnership. It's a cost. And we're still open to having that discussion. We're open to certainly having discussions around density and what have you. It has to be in a way that does meet the needs of the Frazee family, not financial needs. They have time. They have a timeline that they're trying to meet. And so, again, much like Heritage Park, we're coming to you with something that's actionable. We're coming to you with something that, you know, that is actionable. And the deadline's not artificial. It's a real deadline that we have to work through. So I'll leave it at that.
I appreciate those comments too, Paul. I just wanted to say, I mean, I would distance myself from those comments as well from the commissioner. I think that the work that you've done, the efforts, coming forward with some ideas, with some creative ideas, I appreciate it. I appreciate you bringing jobs to Winter Park. I appreciate you bringing additional income to Winter Park. And I appreciate the work and efforts in front of the state. So thank you.
And I echo those comments and certainly support what you've done, and for the great leadership that CNL and its citizens in our city have, we're most appreciative. I think you've at least heard the commission have what they perceive are some deal points. We always stand at the ready. I know we can always squeeze something on a commission agenda or whatever if necessary, if there's something continuing that can be viable going forward. We can discuss this afternoon. I don't know if there's anything really unless something happens in the next couple of minutes to do that with, but we could certainly reconsider that at our next commission meeting, I think, if necessary. With that, is there anything else? I'm going to close this then and adjourn us until we convene at 3:30.